More recently, we got drip marketing for the 4.0 characters that are going to be coming out. The first character is going to be one of the generals from the Lafu, and then in the second half, we are going to be getting a different form of Sparkle to play as. The one big takeaway from these two characters is that they are both of the path of Elation, which is a new playable path in this game outside of like your Divergent universe, your simulated universe, those kind of modes. Now, I don't know how Elation is going to be at this point, because if you remember back when we had Remembrance in simulated universe, for example, it was originally like a freeze cheese path, and then when they actually made it an expandable playstyle, they made it based around summons that could be taken out. So one or two things are going to happen here. Either with the path of Elation, this is going to be a very heavy follow-up focused path, similar to how it is in simulated universe, Divergent universe, or they're going to revamp this path in some way, shape, or form. And I'm suspecting there's a possibility that this could be a very skill point heavy intensive path, given the fact that Sparkle will be receiving a buff. Now, my personal thought, and the thoughts of a good number of other people, is that Sparkle, her Harmony form getting a buff, may be in good sync with not only her Sparkle Elation form, but with other possible DPSs coming out in the future. But of course, that's just pure speculation. Only time will tell on what will happen. Now, as far as Sparkle's buffs go, I'm not really for sure what they will do. I think I saw somebody make a mention of like one of her major traces where you get an additional attack for having so many quantum characters in the party. Now, I've seen some suggestions on how to change that. So this would personally be my recommendation. If she's going to be kind of like the centerfold of Elation moving forward, let's say it does end up being very skill point heavy. If they change that to like Elation, for example, having Elation party members in the party, or even max fools in the party, I think that would be really, really cool as an upgraded bonus. Now, I think as far as the SP economy, I believe if she uses the normal attack spam tech or the kick tech, I do think that she does become more SP positive than even Sunday, but that's not really something that's been a big focus of hers. She should be able to consistently use her skill and still generate significantly more skill points than Sunday. So I wouldn't be surprised if they change her ultimate to where it gives back more skill points. Maybe it increases the SP skill cap, and then maybe as far as using her skill on a target, maybe they'll add some additional properties to it. Maybe they'll add a little bit of crit rate, maybe they'll add a little bit of total damage multiplier, and it won't just be mainly focused on crit damage. Now, as far as her Eidolons, I have no idea what they'll end up doing with that. I don't have access to Sparkle. I have no intention on backpulling for it. In regards to these Elation characters, just in general, my personal plans for Elation moving forward is just a wait and see. If there's an Elation character that comes out that I like and they fall in line with what I already have, then I will definitely consider picking them up. But again, it's really just a wait and see, because I've already got multiple established teams and I'm just going to continue to vertical invest into them to try to keep them as relevant as I can going throughout 4.x. Of course, that's just my plans on my end. I know everyone's going to be a little bit different on that. That's really all the thoughts that I have as far as the different form of Sparkle, Sparkle's buffs, and then of course the Lafu General. I do think the Lafu General does look kind of cool. I know some people have mentioned that she kind of reminds them of Vita a little bit from Honkai Impact 3rd with the whole peacock motif, and I definitely understand where those individuals are coming from. Again, I have no idea what Elation is going to do. I know some people feel like this is going to be Remembrance 2.0, to where we've got DPSs and we've got supports and we've got shielders and healers and all other kinds of wonky stuff potentially. And I'll just say this, if that's the case, then no different from 3.x and 2.x, you always have the option to invest into it or to not heavily invest into it. As time goes by, it's going to get easier and easier to not fully go ham on these new invested paths, just because you're going to have so many different comps in the past that will probably potentially get some form of an upgrade, hopefully. So if I end up not investing fully into Elation, that's going to be completely fine. I'll see how things go as we go along, because I'm not going to sit here and say I won't fully invest in Elation. It really just comes down to the characters that come out and how the playstyle is. I primarily skipped out on Remembrance -1 limited character, so I've been just chilling for the most part. I'll see you on the second side.
You want to take advantage? Found me. Amateur. More enemies. Time for a class. This is double speed.
I weep for the departed. It takes our fall.
so I can leave early. Take it off.
Another journey. Still water to the cliff.
You can't run.
My purpose is to protect. Dragons, obey this soaring above the land. This is permanent!
I weep for the departed. It too shall fall.
Time for a fun. Come to me. This combat. This is double speed. Found me.
I weep for the departed. It too shall fall. Justice for bliss.
You want to take advantage? You can't run. Can I have fun this time? Time for fun. This is double speed.
I weep for the departed. It too shall fall.
Are you with enough belief? Lies become reality.
Black Swan is the most bottom of bottom characters and is easily the most bottom character in Honkai Star Rail history. No contest, no questions asked whatsoever. We first found out about her being a bottom during an encounter with Acheron in the past when she tried to get into Acheron's mind, and then Acheron without effort, no diff, Black Swan without any effort. In fact, Acheron went straight up gangster on her. I wouldn't be surprised if it was running through Acheron's head at the time that she was probably thinking, oh, this woman's trying to get up in my head. She don't know I'm from an Izumo. I'm gonna run these hands. And oh boy, did Acheron run those hands on Black Swan. And man, oh man, did Black Swan get annihilated. And now we're seeing this same bottom type vibe in the trailer that came out a couple of weeks back. And I'm just thinking to myself, Black Swan, is your sole purpose in existence is to be a bottom for the newly pushed Nihility character that might not have anything to do with Emphorius? Is that your role right now? Because that's the vibes that I'm kind of getting. Memes, jokes aside, I do want to talk a little bit about Black Swan, especially in T.O.T. It has been confirmed that Black Swan will be getting some form of a buff, and I know there's been a lot of controversy behind Black Swan getting a buff because there are various other characters that are way more deserving of a buff than Black Swan, and I 100% agree with everyone that has had that sentiment. This is my personal POV when it comes to Black Swan. I personally think the reason why Black Swan is going to be getting some form of a buff is so that way E0 to E0 versus E0 to E0 comparison, Cyrene doesn't start to overtake Black Swan's position, because from my own personal experience using E0 S0 Cyrene versus E0 S0 Black Swan, if it's a scenario where it's say like 4 to 5 targets and the enemies have wind weakness naturally, I do think Black Swan still pops off. This is very commonly going to be the case in say Pure Fiction. But if the enemies don't have wind weakness and instead they have ice weakness, for example, I do think that Cyrene does pull ahead and outperforms Black Swan when we are factoring in Kafka and Hysolence. Also, in my opinion, once we start to factor in maybe only 1 to 3 targets, I do, in my opinion, start to think that Cyrene also looks really good in that scenario, maybe even potentially outperforming Black Swan even in that context. Now, here's the thing. I can only compare these two characters at E0, S0 because that's my investment into each of these characters. Now, if we start talking about signature light cone or a really powerful 5-star light cone in combination with like an E1 or an E2, I suspect that Black Swan would end up being that de facto 3rd slot in the DOT team. And then Cyrene obviously doesn't have as much of a power power boost for DOT specifically, she does get a lot stronger in other aspects. That's just where my headspace is at in that regard. I do know that Mr. Pokey commented on this more recently, and his mindset was maybe this is going to be DOT's final push because we could be going through a long spell to where DOT gets nothing. And if that's personally going to be the way that MiHoYo goes about things, I'm personally going to be fine with that. If anything, I'll probably more than likely go back and try to vertical invest into Hysolins next, but only time will tell. I do know that Hysolin does have a very powerful E2 that would work extremely well with Black Swan because it's essentially the more effect hit rate that you have, the more damage output that you will have. So that's going to help Black Swan out directly. That same E2 wouldn't have the same impact with a Sirene. So that's something that I'll consider for the future. In the event that we don't get any more DOTs in 4.x, I'm personally going to be fine with it. At least people will know what to go for. Now, whether or not these buffs are going to be significant for Black Swan, only time will tell. I don't even know how they're really going to buff Black Swan. Maybe they'll help her Arcana stacking, give more stacks. Maybe those stacks will transfer over easier to new targets on the field. And maybe for her ultimate, that debuff that gets applied, maybe they'll increase the turn duration on it because I think it lasts for 1 turn currently, I believe. Maybe they'll increase it to a 2-turn duration. I think that would be really nice. And that would kind of put it more closer to a scenario where it could have closer to 100% uprate. But of course, only time will tell. These are all my thoughts that I've had for Black Swan. Again, I agree with everyone who feels like Black Swan should not have been one of the characters getting buffed. It should have been somebody else. I definitely agree on that. I would have liked to have seen Sealy get a buff of some kind. If Archer's going to end up being unavailable in the future, I would like to see that. Either that or they give her a new playable form, either or. I do think that she's the most deserving character of that out of everybody. I don't personally think they're going to touch Argenti at this point. I think he's just going to end up going into the shop. But of course, that's just my opinion. And Ho-Ho, I don't think they're going to do anything with Ho-Ho either. I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up in the shop in the future as well, especially if we go into this 4.x and we get a new character who can heal and provide energy to the team. That's all I have for today's video. If you had taken out the time to watch this or listen to this, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. You be safe out there. Deuces.